Hello everyone, welcome to Lush and Salty Aquariums. My name is Stefan, thank you for coming to my channel. So we're at the ground floor of my rack here in the fish room, and we're looking at the UNS 25T. This is essentially a 5.5 gallon, give or take a few ounces, aquarium, but imagine your 5.5 gallon tipped on its side, tilted to its side, because this is a tall tank. So it's a unusual shape in the Nano Aquarium world. It's a little bit more challenging. That's why I say unusual. It's not as popular as the standard shape because it's difficult to work in this size of an aquarium, to get your hands all the way down to the bottom. It's also difficult to correctly light and filter. Everything's a bit more challenging. But I think I've more or less got this one dialed in, at least if you look at this carpet of dwarf hairgrass. It's near perfect. It's about as good a carpet of this particular plant as I've ever had. There is some, not algae, but pieces of moss that I need to pull out, but that's the only blemish. And the moss falls off this beautiful shelf, this moss shelf. You can see the fabulous, healthy strands of what I think is Christmas moss. As we enter into fall and winter, this becomes more iconic to that season, but great moss all around. I love working with it, and on these shelves, it does fabulous. No browning, no algae, but some of it does fall, and moss will grow anywhere, especially in your carpet. So like that little glob back there, I just take my tweezers and pull it out. But again, because this is a tall aquarium, even that's slightly bit more of a pain in the butt. Just to finish off the plantings, this has essentially become a Dutch style tank in that there's no more hardscape, it's all just plantings. That wasn't the original composition, but I pulled out the boulder rocks that I had in here, as well as a piece of driftwood that had come all the way up and breached the surface because it was taking up a ton of valuable real estate. The footprint here is small, and I wanted a good space for these lovely plants, as well as when there was a stick coming out of the surface. With the limited space I had, it was just becoming a real sort of nightmare. So I pulled it all out, fluffed out this garden, and here we are. Talked about the dwarf hairgrass at the bottom. Obviously, it's getting enough light to do really well. And that light, by the way, is a twin star, the smallest one they make. No other one they make would fit across the top like this. You could get clip-ons and things like that, but I wanted to get the strongest, best light I could to reach the bottom of this vertical aquarium. And so far, so good. That's Bucephalandra. Oh my gosh, it's looking so great. There's a couple different kinds in there. And you know what? I'm not gonna lie. I got one of those little plastic racks of Bucephalandra at Petco for $9.99. And it looked green and kind of crummy, but I saw potential, and I just literally pulled off all the plants, gave it a little hydrogen peroxide to remove any crap from Petco, and put them on the little plants on little pebbles and laid them out across the center of this aquascape. And here we are 2 or 3 months later. Just fabulous. These trimmed bunches here, that's Blixa japonica. I just cut it like a shrub because it gets really big and beautiful like an aloe plant, you know, a spiky sort of tropical vibe. And that's great, but I'm trying to keep things into scale as per the lovely discipline of a Dutch style fish tank. Over here is a Rotala. It could be the Atra, but I'm not sure anymore. I had a couple species mixed up in there, and I eventually just kept the ones that were more pink and lovely. And I apologize, but I forget the species. But a common rotala, and it's doing pretty well, maybe very well. But this one struggles the most because of that verticality and lighting issue. But once it starts getting halfway up the tank, you start to see that color. And so far, the leaves, even toward the bottom, are in pretty good shape. They're not falling off and leaving a rotted stick at the very, very bottom. That will happen to this plant in this aquarium, more so than the others, but I think I've got it under control. Where there was a piece of driftwood going vertical up, I put in some cuttings from my common Bacopa moneri. It grows, I don't know, an inch every couple days. Really easy, and guess what? It loves verticality. That stem will stay true and straight, erect, true and straight, all the way up to the top and continue out of the water if I let it. But once it gets out of the water, it does have a tendency to get top heavy and it could flop over. But what a great aquarium, or great plant for a tall aquarium, is Bacopa. And then of course Super Red Mini. And it really likes it in this fish tank. I pull it all out as opposed to cutting and trimming, and just plant the tops again. More of a pain in the butt in this size aquarium, but I get, that much more verticality of Super Red Mini. And let me tell you folks, when all those plants get right up at the surface, although it tells me I'm gonna have to get ready to spend an hour on this tank, it looks so cool. So cool. So the fish, I've talked about them before. I've got a couple black fire endlers in here. Now they're very hard for the camera to pick up, but I think these are one of the most beautiful endlers I've ever seen in my life. Jet black and a caudal fin that's like red piping on a Corvette. So awesome. I got a couple of them in here, females and males. I also have a Santa Maria endler in here, which looks very similar. And maybe if I see him, I'll show you the difference. It's a subtle difference, and they're a glorious looking fish as well. Black and red primary colors for a Santa Maria endler there, you see. Very similar, but it has, the color formatting is more like a neon in the way it's divided on the body. Not the colors, obviously, but like a cardinal tetra, the bottom is one color and the top the other. Well, the Santa Maria is like that with the black and red, and has some color in the tail. I thought that was the most beautiful endler I'd ever seen until I saw these black fire. And I do have two in here, so I know there's a female and they could crossbreed. But I have the line separated in other tanks. And I wanted them as dither fish to occupy more bravely the upper reaches of the tank. I'm filming now, so pushes them down, because my school of ember tetras, they love to come out later in the evening and early in the morning. You see them all? They're fat and happy, super healthy versions of that glorious popular creature, almost iconic with planted aquariums. They're iconic and popular for a reason. They're colorful, they're cheap, they're hardy. Those that are interested generally have success breeding them. The males look like the females, so you don't have a sub-dominant color thing going on. Very, very peaceful. Typically not as shy as, say, a green neon tetra. They're being a little bit standoffish here. It's funny, sometimes, I go for great guns on the colored plants, but if I had all green plants, I'd be able to see these fish that much better. So the moral is there's always an upside no matter what plant you choose. And red doesn't necessarily mean better, nor is it without problems even from an aesthetic point of view, in that these red ember tetras are in a sense camouflaged where they're in front of the Super Red Mini, and they pop in front of the green. Just something to think about when you're aquascaping and planning your planted aquarium. I have a really simple hang-on back filter, just a $14 you can knock off Chinese kind of thing that you can get them in I buy 2 or 3 when I order them. They're really inexpensive, light, small, ship easy. I put a pre-filter on it because there's a crap ton of Neocaridina in here. I mean, there might be 100. Granted, maybe the camera isn't seeing it, or it is seeing it and I'm not pointing them out correctly. But trust me, folks, there are a bunch. Let's go up to the moss rack. There's a Blue Dream and sort of a generic looking Neocaridina, probably a fry that just reverted to the wild color form. And they're both having a little powwow. There's 100 more like that in here, including really variations where you get the saddle is colorful and the body, front and back, are opaque. A lot of black rillies and blue dreams. I know it makes for a crappy video, but you'll have to take my word for it. There's a few autosynclus in here. I had a mono shrimp, but they got really big really fast, and I took them out because when they're Godzilla sized, their scale in a relatively small tank kind of just looks frightening. It's weird. It's not appropriate. And I think they were predating on slow-moving fish because I found one eating an endler, and these endlers weren't in the habit of dying. Not that they're slow-moving, but I thought this gigantic Amano shrimp might have jumped on it in the evening and just had its way. Even if I was wrong about that, and I very well could be, the scale, they were too big for the tank, bottom line. Even a shrimp could be too big for a nano tank. How about that? This is Crypticorn Balancea, and that was always in here behind the piece of driftwood, and I fully intended it to do just what it's doing. Grow up, be really cool, fold over the top, and start heading back around. Now I've cut a few of them back. There were more of those leaves doing that, and there will be more to come. But what a cool way to treat a crypt as a feature plant. You know what? There's an autosynclus, obviously. The rarest fish in here, I have some albino pygmy coreodoras. And why we're not seeing them, given their bright white color, is a mystery that I probably won't be able to solve for this video. Maybe you saw one over the course of the video while I was blathering on, and I didn't point it out, but you saw it. They are minuscule, smaller than the already small standard pygmy coreodora, but they're all alive. There's like 9 of them in here. I got them from Moonlight Aquatics in Seattle. A great shop out there. He has some exotic stuff. Alex at Fishery is always talking about them. And if you go to his video channel, you'll get a code. And he tends to keep those fish. Now, I'm not doing much of an ad for them because we can't see a damn one of them. But they're adorable. They're pygmy coreodoras, and they're the albino form, which I've never seen before. That is a fail that I can't find one for you, let alone the slew of Neocaridina that are in here. Of course, the ubiquitous ram's horn snail. Nice pink version of that. They're generally pink, brown, and pale. The pink ones are cooler, and when people sell them, they tend to price them a bit more. Just a pointless little fact. If you have any questions, I might have missed something. I always do. You want to ask about this setup, the plants, the fish, the technology, by all means hit me up. I'd love to hear from you, and I will answer all questions. Until then, always keep your hands in the tank, albeit carefully, and ciao for now.